Yeah, so I'm having a little bit of camera trouble, but basically, just I was just talking about like that stereotype, right? We've seen it sometimes in TV shows, we've seen them in films where you have an ensemble cast of characters and one of them is the mean one of them is like the bully, right? And when we see that, whenever it's like the dark skinned character, the one dark skinned character in like a sea of black folks, or the one black character, or the one character of color, or the one queer character, it's just kind of like, we don't have to slap that bully label on like the marginalized person within this group and the oppressed person in this group. So within this group, it was like the dark skinned woman, and I was just hoping that they weren't trying to make Elektra like the villain of the story. And luckily, they did start to humanize her after a while, especially in the episode when she took the girls to the beach with the very rich sub that she was working with, because he had a beach house and he was just interested in just like being tied up in a cage. So they got to spend some time on the beach, and we got to see Elektra do what she's good at, which is like read a bitch down. Classic, iconic read for sure. And Elektra no longer became like the bully. She just became like the tell it like it is, like give it to you straight, no chaser type of character, the one who doesn't pull punches, the one who keeps it real, as opposed to being like this manipulative, kind of violent shrew who was just like mean to her kids for no reason. So, it's been good. Outside of the fact that they murdered Candy, I've been okay with the basic storylines of the show. Like the whole romance between Pretel and Ricky, I was not a fan of, but I get it. I think, as an older person, I get like being lonely and feeling desperate, and Ricky being a homosexual, I guess it made sense for them to find each other. But yeah, I wasn't overly invested in anyone else outside of Elektra, so it was really nice to see them dedicate an entire episode to her character. I remember when the show first dropped, and I posted a picture of Dominique Jackson on my Instagram, and I said, can we please have a backstory for Elektra? Can you please give us a reason why she is the way she is? Can you please let us know how she landed in that fly-ass apartment? Like, I just want to know, like, where did this being come from? So when I saw the trailer for this week's episode, I was like, yes, they're going to give me what I want. They're going to give me what I want. And it was so nice to see a story focused on a dark-skinned black femme. Like, that's something that we rarely get to see. And a dark-skinned black queer femme, right? Like, I don't know if I've seen that outside of like maybe the film Pariah. I'm not sure where else we have seen something like that. And it was so nice to see her actually triumph in the end and not suffer, you know, for her life, not suffer for her freedom, not suffer for her liberation. It was so nice to see her like supported. There's this one scene in the car when they're going to dump off the body, and Blanca's like, are you sure you want to do this? And she looks down and she's thinking, and the look that Ricky puts his arm around her, and the look that he gives her is so sweet and so endearing. Like, oh my goodness, I really love this thing about chosen family and people finding each other, these outliers, these weirdos, society's rejects, like just coming together and finding each other and really like going out and going hard for each other. Like, oh, it's so nice. I love it so much. So yeah, unfortunately, Elektra and her mom, they don't come to an understanding, right? When we first meet her, she's working the streets, she's a sex worker, she's out there, she's making money, and she ends up getting locked out of the place where her clothes are, so she can't change before she gets home. She makes it home, and her mom is up. Tasha Jackson is up, sitting in the dark. Electra walks in. Miss Jackson says, "What are you wearing?" She says, "It's Halston." Mommy is angry, okay? She goes off. She snatches the wig off her head. She pulls her. She grabs her face, holds it up to the mirror. They have a back and forth. And there's a really significant moment within this back and forth where we get to see an illustration of the differences between gender and sexuality, right? And for some people, it's confusing and they conflate the two. Electra's mom says, you know, she's a cross-dresser, she's a homosexual. And Electra's like, "I'm not a cross-dresser and I'm not a gay man, I'm a woman." And the look that her mom gives her is like, "Excuse me? You're what?" Right? So mom is not feeling it. And Electra's like, "You know what? I'm out of here. I don't take this abuse on the streets, so why would I take it in my own home? I'm just gonna grab my things and go." And mom is like, "This is my house. I pay the rent. I pay the deed. The deed is in my name. I pay everything under this roof belongs to me." And Electra's like, "But my things, like, these are all I have." And she's like, "Tough titty. Goodbye." She puts her out. Now, the thing that I thought was interesting was that Electra's mom didn't actually kick her out and say, "Get out," for real, for real. Electra chose to leave, right? It was her choice. She knew that she had to be out of the house to become her full self. And it's just really jacked up that the mom put her out with like no resources, no money, no like where you gonna stay, no like I love you, please be safe, just like out with nothing but the clothes on her back. And you know, I was kind of angry at mom for that. I felt like mom was being vindictive, but hey, hurt people, right? So flash forward to present day, and Electra's looking fine as hell in these white pants and this white hat. She's strutting. She struts back past a cop car. 2 undercover cops parked not too far from her job. And she sees them. They see her. She goes up inside. She checks her messages. She gets a message from Lulu. "Oh, I'm fine." Whatever, Lulu. Like, we don't care. Like, you're addicted to crack. Like, we don't care, girl. Like, get yourself together. Like, I'm more interested in Lulu being a stripper than I am in her being a crackhead, because that's interesting. You know, Lulu becoming an accountant and what the reasons why she couldn't. Her being a crackhead. Anyway, so, you know, it turns out that Electra's running a phone sex operation. Now, how do I know that? Well, for one, she talks about Star 69, which was something that it would make sense for it to be a phone sex agency. And also because I used to be a phone sex operator, and I recognized that layout of the offices as soon as she went in the door. I was like, "Oh, this is a phone sex place. I know what's going on here." Like, I could tell immediately. Like, I made good money as a phone sex operator, and it's really like that same setup where you have these little cubicles and you have a person at each cubicle with a headpiece on, with a computer in front of them, and they're talking, right? And the idea is like, the longer you keep them on, the more money you make. And then if you get them to keep calling you back again and again and requesting you, the more money you make. So it's a really good little hustle. The men are weird. The people that call, I should say, are weird, but it's a really easy way to make money. Either way, the 2 cops come in, they bang on the door the way cops do, and then they come in, and Electra delivers one of the funniest lines of the episode to me, when she talks about, I didn't know we were hiring new workers. Girl, you knew them was cops, right? They flash their badges. We need to talk to you. Come down to the station. Electra's like, I've committed no crime. And they're like, well, that's okay. Just come down. We just want to ask you a few questions. So she goes with them. They start interrogating her, asking her if she has any ties to the mob. Electra's like, I've seen Goodfellas. That's about it. And, you know, the black lady undercover cop is like, they're playing like that good cop, bad cop thing. And they're like, we're gonna search your whole house, okay? We're gonna get a search warrant and search your house, because if if you don't give us what we want, we will get it some other way. So Electra's like, oh shit. Search my house? Okay, I'll be right back. So she goes to make her phone call, supposedly to her lawyer, but it's actually Blanca. And she's like, Blanca, I need you to get that trunk out of my house. I'm at the precinct, and if they find that little white jewel from Hellfire, I am burnt toast, okay? I'm screwed. And Blanca's like, I don't know if I could do this, Ma. Like, remove a dead body. And she's like, think about all the things I've did for you, and also recognize the fact that I'm scared and I'm a black trans woman that's about to be put in a male prison. Think about the things that could go wrong. And Blanca's like, you know what? Okay, I got you. So Blanca and Poppy go over to Electra's gorgeous apartment. Turns out Ricky's been staying there since he left Pray Towels. Isn't that nice? And Ricky lets them in. They open up the closet. Blanca pulls some money out of the safe, and then she's like, okay, I need y'all to help me move this trunk. And the trunk is just like super heavy. It's a dead body. Like, y'all know dead weight is like 4 times what somebody would normally weigh. And it's also a little bit smelly. The pine sol trees hanging everywhere just crack me up. So, you know, Poppy's like, what's in this trunk? And she's like, don't worry about it. And he's like, I'm not moving drugs. And she's like, it's not drugs. And Ricky's like, well, what is it then? So that's when the circle of trust begins to expand, right? Ricky and Poppy are pulled into the circle of trust, and Blanca tells them, this man OD'd when Blanca was servicing him at Hellfire. And yeah. And they're like, oh, Ricky says, that's fucked up. Which it is, but what can she do? She's a black trans woman. She would have went to jail. She would have been convicted of murder, all right? It wouldn't have been a good situation for her, no matter how you slice it. Between racism, between colorism, between misogyny, between queerphobia, Electra would have been screwed if that dead white man had been found in her presence. So, they get the trunk, they take it down the street, they take it home. They take it to Blanca's house. They put it in Damon's room. They try to make it into a shrine, right? Remember the last episode when Praytel was teasing him about being a Buddhist, and he was going Nom Nom Reikyo. So I guess there might have been a story developing around Damon being a Buddhist, but because the actor had to leave, unfortunately, rest in peace, his sister was murdered, so he had to leave. He asked for a leave of absence so he could like deal with that. But I think that might have been where they were going initially. Either way, they push the trunk up against the wall. They cover it with fabric. Blanca says, there, you're safe now, to the trunk. And Poppy and Ricky are like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just that this trunk has a lot of memories. And one of the things that I liked about this episode so much was the time play. I love that time jumping back and forth. That's something that they did on How to Get Away with Murder a lot, where they would like start at the end of the day and make their way back. And sometimes it can feel kind of confusing, but I also like it at the same time because it forces you to pay attention and look for context clues. But anyway, so they go back in time and we get to see little baby Blanca in her shake and go wig. We get to see Lulu. We get to see Candy. and they are doing the most, and Mother Electra is there. They're broke as fuck. They don't have any food. And Electra's basically like, I'm your mother. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to figure something out. She's still working the streets. She's not allowing her kids to work the streets. But she's still working the streets. And she's like, Mommy's going to go to work. So she goes out and she goes to work.